Welcome to the Big O Show.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best.
Hello and welcome back to the Big O Show podcast. I'm your host as always, Ryan Anka. Thank you for taking time out of your day whenever you're listening to this podcast. And if you haven't done so already, please make sure to like the Big O Show Facebook page and also rate and subscribe to the Big O Show podcast. You're already listening to it, so why not subscribe to it so you can get all the latest updates when I drop new episodes and interviews along the way. This is your Monday motivational message. It's a quick little kickstart if you're new to the show. All it is a quick little 5-10 minute motivational centered, motivational driven message to get your day started off on the right note. And hopefully that one day leads to another day, which leads to another day. And then eventually there's a continuation where it becomes habitual and ultimately you are living your best life. So that's my goal with this podcast. And if you've heard this show before, you know that that's what I believe in, and that's what I will continue to believe in and continue to preach, because I believe if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I'm choosing to stand on positivity and support and motivation throughout everything I do in my life. So that's that. Let's go ahead and hop right into today's message.
Let me know, let me know.
So one new interest that I started since 2020, but really since the summertime hit, I was thinking of different ways that I could feed my mind, but also continue to grow as a person, because we all know that the process of growing and the process of change is a continuous process. It doesn't stop until you stop. So what were some things that, I think I can do? I've told you guys before in the past, I have motivational apps, I get motivational emails, I follow motivational accounts and things. I strategically place things along my day every day that I'm going to see and read that provoke and are contagious for motivation. And another thing that I recently started doing was I started buying books again. I've never been a big reader. It's never been something that I could manage to do. I have a very addictive personality, which is good in some ways and can be bad in others. But in general, I'm either all in or not at all, right? So that's me. That doesn't mean that's you, though, obviously. But I've never liked reading because I never like to sit down and sit still. I have what I like to call, or what my mom likes to call, is busybody syndrome. I can't sit still. I always have to do something. It's very hard for me to just sit back and relax. Even when I go to the beach, I'm usually, skimboarding, paddleboarding, throwing the football, kicking the soccer ball, or doing something that's pretty active. That's like my recovery days. So some would argue those aren't even recovery days at all. Anyways, that's not the point. That's not what I was trying to say. I decided that I was going to start reading. And one of the books that I decided was going to be my first ones, one of the ones that I sat down to actually read cover to cover, is by a New York Times bestseller. You guys probably heard of him, Simon Sinek. He was the author of Start With Why, right? We talked about that before. Why are you doing something? Why? What motivates you? When you have a strong and solid why, you can continue to build upon that, right? So if you don't have a why, definitely check out that book, but also just Google, what's your why? There's a million different messages and outlets out there for that. It's very powerful. And if you're missing any passion or motivation in your life, research, look up, what's your why, and really have a strong rooted, deeply grounded why, and that'll be all the drive and all the focus that you need in your life. I promise you that. But the book that I'm reading by Simon Sinek is not Start With Why. I just wanted to give a shout out to that. This book is called Leaders Eat Last: Why Some Teams Pull Together and Others Don't. You guys know that I'm a coach, so obviously anything revolving around a team atmosphere or getting the most out of your players or people that you coach, that's like a drug for me. I'll eat that stuff up. I'll use that stuff, regurgitate it, and give it back to those that I teach and those that I coach along the way. But if I have to be honest, originally what got me interested, obviously the author, I talked about that before, but the cover was kind of cool. It showed a dinner plate with a fork and a knife. It has several dinner plates with forks and knives. And obviously it's making the correlation between eating physical food and leadership. But we all know it's probably not about that, and honestly, it is not about that. But it grabbed my interest nonetheless, and there's a bunch of really good stuff, and I'm actually going to probably use some of what's inside this book in future episodes of the podcast, but I wanted to give you a little sample of what's inside the book, and this is actually before the foreword. This is the first page inside, and it says, leaders are the one who run headfirst into the unknown. They rush toward danger. They put their own interests aside to protect us or to pull us into the future. Leaders would sooner sacrifice what is theirs to save what is ours, and they would never sacrifice what is ours to save what is theirs. This is what it means to be a leader. It means they choose to go first into danger, head first toward the unknown. And when we feel sure that they will keep us safe, we will march behind them and work tirelessly to see their vision come to life and proudly call ourselves their followers. Now that's some powerful stuff. And when I read that instantly got me hooked on this book, and I knew I picked the right one. I didn't get it from a bookstore. I ordered it on Amazon. So it was kind of just, you read a summary of what it may be about and you take a chance. But when I read that, I knew, and this was the right book. And reading some of the chapters so far inside, man, it's packed full of some great stuff. But that tiny little bit that I just shared with you guys is so true, and that's kind of what I want to talk about for the last few minutes on this episode, is that true leaders don't worry about their own interest. They care more about the team. They care more about the end product. They're going to stick their neck out on the line for their team. That's what every team that I've played on, every coaching staff that I've been a part of, at least the successful ones, the leaders, the person that everyone can turn to in a time of adversity or need, that's when you really see what leaders you have. And that's when you can really see what kind of leader you are. And that's kind of what this whole book is about. They're a completely selfless person. They care about the end product, and they care about the team over everything else. So I challenge you guys this week, especially if you're a leader or you're in some type of leadership role. Maybe you're not a coach, but you're a leader in some capacity. I really just challenge you guys to look in the mirror and make sure that you're feeding your followers, feeding your players, your students, feeding them first so you can eat last. And so the end product can be what your vision and what your hope would be. So that's it for the message today. So now go out there and be the change that you want to see in the world, and go out and make today the best day of your life. I'll talk to you guys soon.